Here we are again, reading Reddit, but thankfully I'm joined by you beautiful, beautiful person. Also, I got coffee. That's gonna help a lot too. But we should read some Reddit stuff. All right, first one. I'm panicking. See, like I said, I think I said in a previous episode, there's always like a level of catastrophizing that happens on these things, you know? It's I don't want to say catastrophizing. I mean, it's obviously like super important to them, but it's funny. Just I guess it's not funny because it's kind of sad. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so I'm panicking. I woke up this morning and I saw the scale hit a new high, and I am absolutely panicking on what to do. I've gained just about 20 pounds over the last 6 months, and I need help. How do I start? I need this change. My self-esteem is plummeting. My body confidence is gone. I need a change, and I need direction. Someone help me. I'm 5'2" and 167 pounds. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do it live on this video. So the first thing that you want to know about, at least in this case with the data that we got, what is our BMI? So when you are thinking about a BMI, you have to consider a couple different things. So weight and height are the big ones. They're the most important ones most of the time. Being a male or a female is also super important. Males tend to burn a little bit hotter than females in regards to how much like energy they use on a daily basis, because men's muscles tend to be a little bit bigger just because of testosterone. When you take the data that she gave us, we don't know her age, so I'm just going to assume 30. I don't know if that's a safe thing to assume, but just in case, just as we have something that we can kind of measure. She says she's 5'2" and weighs 167 pounds. Assuming that she's about 30, her current BMI is 30.5, which is in the obese part of the BMI. So yeah, she's roaming around in that 30 area of the BMI. Obese is obviously not very good. It comes with a lot of associated health problems in regards to, let's just say, as you gain weight, you definitely become more susceptible to things like diabetes. You become susceptible to joint pain. You're susceptible to higher levels of inflammation because fat is what they call estrogenic, which means it helps create estrogen in the body, and an imbalance of estrogen to testosterone and the other hormones that work with it. It's wildly complex, but I'm going to kind of sum it up. Generally speaking, the more estrogen you have in your body compared to the ratio of other things that roam around in your blood, you're more likely to have inflammation, which means you're more sensitive to pain, stuff like that. And inflammation is also associated with all kinds of different diseases, depending on where it is. And, you have a lot of what they call fatty organs, which is a whole other thing and problems. It's not good. It's just not a good thing. And I'm not one to say that the implications of it from a mental standpoint are not as important. They most assuredly are. As soon as somebody's confidence starts to tank, you start making bad decisions. Bad decisions lead to more bad decisions, and then the dominoes, they just start to fall. I'm sorry that you are panicking. I really am. One thing I would always say to people who are panicking at the very beginning is first, just take a deep breath, calm down, think about the facts, right? So you have a number, which is, again, I like metrics. So now you can measure that number and start to see what might work best for your lifestyle. If you are truly looking to change some of the lifestyle factors in your life, I think is how that works. My talking is always perfect thoughts all the time. Never bumble up inside my brain. But if you're actually looking for changes in your lifestyle, the very first thing you need to do is be mindful. You need to contemplate the things in your life that are not working for you. That could be as easy as seeing it all in a single day. It could take you a week, it could take you a month. But if you pay attention and really just think about the things that you know are not serving you very well, it's a lot easier to get rid of them as opposed to just guessing all the time, which is obviously much more frustrating. It can work if you're really determined, but again, it's better to have something you can measure. Then what you need to do is you need to change your identity. And what does that mean? So if somebody is going through a change in their lifestyle, let's just say a smoker, what you'll notice is that the words that they use to describe how they're changing their lifestyle is very important to see if they're actually going to be successful or not. If you ask somebody, how's that whole smoking thing going? And you know that they're trying to quit. If they say, oh, I'm taking a break, or I'm trying to stop, or something like that, what is happening inside of their brain is when you word it like something like that, you are still associating yourself, you're still identifying yourself as a smoker, which seems like quite the little subtle thing. It doesn't seem like it would be all that important, but if the brain still identifies as the same person that had the bad habits, breaking those bad habits is significantly harder. This is something that you see in psychology quite a bit. I believe in groups that are about like quitting, like Alcoholics Anonymous, something that they're always trying to advocate is that instead of being a former drinker, you are now a healthy person. You're trying to change your identity to something that is much more healthy. As it comes to somebody who's trying to lose weight, what you need to do is say, instead of I'm trying to go on a diet, or I'm somebody who's trying to lose weight, what you start to say is, I'm a healthy person, and healthy people make good decisions. And usually these good decisions will lead to weight loss. Now, one of my most favorite things I ever read on the internet, I've read a lot of stuff on the internet, some good, some bad, is that people think about exercise, and most people, the thing that they are the most worried about is how they look aesthetically, while all of the other benefits of something like exercise are completely just kind of like thrown to the wayside, because everybody's always focused on how they look. And obviously how you look is very important, don't get me wrong. But once you start to exercise more and you start losing the weight, because you've been put in a position where you're in a place where you don't like to be, what I would say is be mindful. And once you get to the place where you want to be, you'll notice a lot of other benefits to it. So again, with patients, I see this a lot. They'll come in, they have back pain or whatever, and then you adjust them. You do it for like a couple weeks. And something I hear all the time is, it's almost always the first fringe benefit of being adjusted is, I'm sleeping way better than I used to. And that's because getting adjusted, since it regulates your nervous system, it's a lot easier to get like deep nights of sleep just because your body's able to work much more efficiently. The same goes for weight loss. If you start losing all this weight, you're going to start noticing like, I have a lot more energy. Like, my knees don't ache as much as they used to. I don't pop and crack as much as I used to whenever I walk around or go to the thing or whatever. And when you go to a gym and work out and all that, it also creates good habits, and these good habits can be quite helpful for other changes in your, making other changes in your life. Like I said, the dominoes go both ways. That's kind of the gist I'm trying to get to here. Is if you're making good decisions, it's easier to make other good decisions. If you start making bad decisions, it's a lot easier to make one more bad, And it's okay to like not always make the best choice. Like, don't have anxiety or panic attacks over like thinking, I'm gonna have a cookie instead of eating a salad or whatever. It's like, generally speaking, those tiny little things like that, they don't make like that huge of a difference. But if you are changing your entire lifestyle and you want to reward yourself a tiny bit, that's fine. Like, treat yourself. You're so special. Just treat yourself, girl. Just do it. What I'm trying to say is, don't panic. That's my very first thing. A lot of this is a mind game, I guess is a good way to put it. In Dune, they say fear is the mind killer. So just like I said, first thing you always want to do is just stay calm, be mindful. Mindfulness is so useful for every aspect of your life. If you could be mindful, then you can make the best changes in your entire world, because you start to realize what you do and don't like. There you go. Yeah, so if you're actually looking for a change, changing is hard, but once you start to notice the benefits of it, pay attention to the benefits, so it's a lot easier for you to remember why you're doing all this in the first place. Change is great, as long as you're making it's good change. You don't want bad change. Bad change is usually bad, right? That's why it's called bad change, not a good change. Let's read some comments. First comment. I like the name of this user. I don't know if I'm going to put it in the video, but the name of the user is pretty funny, actually. Don't panic. You're going to be okay. Relax. Don't do it. Won't you go do it? Don't panic. You're going to be okay. Lots of people are coming out of winter with weight gain, and 20 pounds isn't that crazy if you've been in a mild surplus for months straight. You're not alone. And it's something you can easily fix with basic changes. Yeah, I have to tend to agree with that one. Just to kind of go right off the zip. If you go through the winter months, you're not as mobile because you tend not to go outside quite as much. And generally speaking, winter and fall are associated with comfort foods. So like Thanksgiving, you eat a lot of like pies and all that stuff, and like very I don't want to say fattening foods per se, but there's a lot of sugar that's involved with that, and especially in the Christmas holidays too. Candy canes, yada yada, like just a lot of like sugary type foods, which tend to increase weight gain. Something to kind of just keep in mind. But if you come out of the winter with a little bit more weight, that's fine. That's why you got to work on the summer bod down in Florida. That was something that you heard a lot. Calorie deficit, nothing crazy, just a few hundred calories a day will have you losing 0.5 to 1 pound a week alone. That's true. I highly recommend tracking your calories so you're not guessing and underestimating. Move more. You don't have to go work out like crazy, but incorporating more steps and even Some workouts will make a huge difference. I also found drinking water only has been super beneficial personally. Deep breaths, you got this. Best of luck, and from one random stranger onto another. Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. A couple things that you can learn from that from a medical standpoint, from a wellness standpoint. I guess not medical. Water takes up space in your stomach, which helps reduce your cravings, so that can keep food from entering the mouth because the stomach is telling the brain like you're not necessarily as hungry as you think you are. Yeah, it actually doesn't take that much to lose weight. The body is always trying to get back to, I forget, there's like a technical term for it, but there's like a set point. And the brain decides at some point that it wants to be a certain weight, and it will do its best to either bring you up to or bring you down to whatever that weight is, which is one of the reasons why as we get older, people tend to gain a little bit more weight. A lot of it has to do with the basal metabolic rate too, the BMR. Not to downplay that, but the brain at some point makes a point on a scale where it thinks you should weigh. And of course, you can influence it by going one way or the other. And obviously making good decisions usually tends to like move that scale. It's not super fully understood. I read a really good book about it. I think it's like Cravings and Why We Do It. I think I might have the book around here somewhere. I'll try and put a picture of it. It's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. Really taught me a lot about why America's food the way it is. I'll kind of leave it at that. Maybe I'll do a book review. Maybe I'll have a little book club. That'd be fun. But yeah, that's something to remember is your body wants to be a certain way. Like your body doesn't necessarily want to be overweight. Genetics plays a huge factor in that for sure. But you know, it's not all that hard to start incorporating just a few more steps. Calorie counting, while it is a massive pain in the patootie. I'm sorry I have to use that language on this channel. I try to keep myself clean. But this major pain in the patootie, I said it again. It is definitely worth it because, again, it's all about that mindfulness. If you start eating foods that you're shocked have more calories, that are much more calorically dense than others, you can start to avoid those foods a little bit. There's a lot, and I'm not sponsored by anybody, but there's a lot of really good apps out there that help you calorie count. I highly recommend you at least get one. I like Chronometer. That's my favorite one. I know that recently I saw on an ad somewhere that there's a food counter where you could take a picture of food, and I'm sure there's some kind of AI thing that picks up what it is that you're taking a picture of, and it'll actually do the calorie counting for you in a lot of ways. You probably have to change it up a little bit. It's probably not perfect. Nothing is. That might be something that's really useful. And that might be something you want to pay for. I mean, honestly, if you're going to spend $5 for an app every month and it helps you lose, like 20 to 40 pounds, I'd say $5 a month it's like a drop in the bucket, right? If you just cancel, I don't know, one thing that you were spending, like a magazine subscription or whatever that people have these days, those sneaky subscriptions that sneak up on you. That would be my recommendation. I like that. And yeah, just go for more walks, just increase your basal metabolic rate, and you'll be shocked what can happen. The more muscles you have, the more your body's going to burn fat while you're sleeping. So that's why I always recommend weightlifting. I know a lot of people don't want to be toned. You hear that word a lot. You have to lift quite a bit to become toned. But that's a personal opinion thing. Relax, don't do it. What you wanna do? Relax, don't do it. Yeah, see that now? It's gonna be stuck in my head all day. It's gonna be stuck in my head all day. Next comment. Don't panic. Be excited. Your life is about to make a really positive turn. It sounds like you feel motivated to make a change. Yeah, that's super important. You got to actually want it. Although, it's easy to say you want to change something. Wanting, actually getting out to do it, that's a lot harder. But yeah, if you actually have that motivation, make sure you don't let that momentum slide. Make sure you keep that up. The first thing that really works for me is walking. I love walking. I also love birding, so that helps too. Yeah, those two things go hand in hand quite a bit. Just starting your day with a 10-minute walk can make a big difference. The toughest part and most important is going to be food. There it is. Instead of viewing yourself as restricting, try focusing on introducing or switching out foods. Instead of ice cream, I'll have a coffee Greek yogurt in the evening with chia seeds. It's still a treat for me, but a little more healthy and gives me protein and fiber, helping me feel more full. And you could still have a sweet treat sometimes, just not as often. That's what I was getting at earlier. Also, find an active hobby that you enjoy. Like I said, for me, it's birding and roller skating. I also do enjoy the gym, particularly weightlifting. You might hate the gym, but I love dancing. Kara recently, we went to a line dancing thing recently. I had a lot more fun, and we both went home, and we were both tuckered. We were both tuckered out. You might hate the gym, but love dancing. Find whatever brings you joy. There's so much more to cover, but good luck. I hope this helps a bit. Yeah, a lot of that has very similar notions of what I was just saying. Finding an activity that you really enjoy is obviously great, especially if it involves physical activity. Dancing is a common. I really loved Zumba. I'm not like a dancer by any means. I've worked with ballet dancers quite a bit. I wouldn't say I'm much of a ballerina. But for some reason, my life always comes back to dancing in some way. When I was going through college, I went to Zumba quite a bit just because it was something to kind of escape. And I got really into it. I was terrible at it. But what I learned is that if you're going there, and I tried to look at it from an analytical standpoint, and I would get frustrated because my feet wouldn't move like the same as everybody else's because I'm what you call a goofball. But once you kind of just let yourself go with it and you're just going with the steps, and even if you mess up a step here or there, don't let it get into your head. You know, you just laugh, have it off. Everybody was like, I was like shouting and screaming with the rest of the girls. I was the only guy. I was the only guy in the class out of like 30 people. It's a great way to meet ladies, I guess. You know, consensually, mind you. Be nice about it. And yeah, so I really enjoyed that kind of stuff. Even just tiny little, yeah, like walks. Yeah, that's perfect. Like as I've said before, if you're in a bad mood, you know, go for a walk. And if you're done and you're still in a bad mood, go for another walk. Walks are great. Very base minimal. I mean, it's like beyond easy. Put an audiobook in your ear and just start walking, or I don't know, like you can even play on your phone while you're walking. Just, you know, mind that neck posture, bring it up quite a little bit. Like I said, it's easy and it's cheap. It's free. I mean, if it costs you money to go walking, that's not good. That's not a good sign. Yeah, you're living in quite the dystopia. Highly recommend just picking up walking. And I as she was saying with the Greek yogurt, there was a long time there where I would have, or I think it was an organic Greek. I forget the name of the company. I'll put a. Actually, I'm not gonna put a picture there because I'm not sponsored. But yeah, having organic Greek yogurt, I would have that after every meal as like I guess you call it like a dessert. Greek yogurt doesn't really. There's a lot of people that don't really like the taste of it. I don't really mind it necessarily, but I would mix in a little bit of sugar-free applesauce into it just to give it like a little flavor. You can put in anything just to kind of give it a little sweetness. I mean, even something with sugar put in that is probably going to be a lot better than eating like just pure ice cream. And I'm not like much of a sweet tooth, but I am definitely weak for ice cream. Ice cream and shakes. It's just like talking about Dylan's past day, I guess. When I would come home from school, my grandma, because I kind of lived with her, she would make a milkshake every time I got home. It was coffee flavored. I guess that explains my addiction. Oh my god. But yeah, so, you know, making those small changes will make a big difference. Because again, you don't have to change your entire lifestyle and live in like an iron cage of will and like hard lined, you know, just willpower, and just say you're not allowed to have any fun whatsoever. Yeah, you still got to enjoy some things. You don't want to make yourself miserable. It's a good way to relapse is to make yourself super miserable and just never want to do it again. Yeah, but there you go. I think there's a lot to be learned from that. Don't be stressed out. Like, weight gain's not good, but it's not like something that can't be reversed, right? It's like hair. You know, if I were to like shave this mustache, which if I did, I think the girlfriend would probably kill me at this point. She really likes it. It would just grow back, right? You know, there's like things change, and if you feel that you're constantly locked into a single point of time in your life, then, you know, it becomes a lot harder to make significant changes. First thing I would do is, again, I would just say mindfulness is key. Just look at what's happening, look at the stuff that doesn't serve you anymore, start figuring out ways how to get rid of it, and then just give yourself a date to be like, okay, this is the day where I no longer eat ice cream after dinner every single day or whatever it happens to be. I say start small. Once you start small, the dominoes start to fall, and the other good decisions tend to follow behind. I'm sure there's some psychology behind that, like a specific report that I don't have off the top of my head, but I've read something about it on the internet. I read so much internet I can't remember where it all came from anymore. But yeah, there you go. So that's first question. Let's go to the second. Ooh, this is a fun one. I like this. This is an R chiropractic. I'm a chiropractic. What do you typically see happen when patients plateau? Something I've been thinking about lately. There are patients who improve early on, but then progress slows down and kind of levels off. I'm curious what you usually see happen at that point. Do they tend to continue care, transition into something else, or start dropping off once they feel some level of relief? Okay, so this is definitely a chiropractor asking this question. This is something that we do talk about quite a bit in school, and this is where a huge amount of difference in the philosophy of each individual chiropractor will start to pop up. There are, I'm going to put this in simple terms. I'm sure there's a lot of chiros out there that would argue nuance with me, which is fine. It's beyond the purview of what we're talking about here. People are going to argue, what is the end goal of going to a chiropractor? And I think that when you go to a chiro, it's a good idea, again, kind of like we were saying earlier, it's good to be mindful of what it is that you're exactly trying to do. If you are interested in just getting rid of pain, well, every chiro can probably help you with that on some level. If you just get adjusted and nothing else happens, if it's done well, and there's no red flags and this, and it's a appropriate thing to do, you will feel better. There's no doubt in my mind that it's going to help you in ways that you're probably not even aware. It'll help your nervous system start to re-regulate, blah, blah, blah. Depending on how much you go there, it can help you rewire some neural processes that go up and down the spine, yada, yada. But what you'll notice is that once the driving factor of why somebody went to the chiropractor is not there anymore, well, then people start to have questions. When people are desperate and they're in pain, I could tell you that, the sky is purple and, like I know everything and blah, blah, blah. And people are like, yeah. Just get me out of pain, please. Yeah. So, please. And at that point, people, they're listening, but but they have a goal in mind where it is like they want to get out of pain, right? And which is completely reasonable. Being in pain stinks. What we have in Chiro land is a opportunity to go into what we call the realm of like wellness and maintenance. That will often draw flack from other people, from other healthcare specialties, I guess. Like massage therapists are always like, hey, you should get like a massage like every couple weeks or whatever. Dentists are telling us like, yeah, come in every 6 months and we'll do a cleaning and we'll make sure your thing is all good and all that. And nobody really bats an eyelash much at that, but what I've noticed in the chiro world is that there's a lot of people out there who say, oh, going to a chiro every other week or once a month is quack juice and is stupid, and these chiros don't know what they're talking about and they're so bad. And I see that a lot, which I think is unjust and it's not fair. They're wandering into a scope that they themselves may not fully understand, and I do my best to not do that. I don't go to there. So if like somebody says I go to get a massage every month or whatever it happens to be, I'm like, great, that's awesome. That's their personal decision. And there's a lot of patient preference when it comes to that. Why is that important to what we're talking about? Well, a lot of this is all patient preference. If somebody comes to my office and they say, Doc, I have this pain in my knee or whatever, and I want it to go away. What can we do about it? I'm in pain. I'm getting desperate. I'm like, great. Okay, so first let's establish what's wrong. So we'll do a little exam. We'll get a lot of history. What I often look for, and I think what really helps educate patients beyond what is wrong with them in regards to pain, is, hey, while we're here, I know your knee hurts. Let's do some lumbar range of motion stuff. Let's test the muscles on that don't even go to the knee. Let's check your ankle. Obviously, there are muscles in the ankle that tend to go up to the knee. You got your peroneus muscle and blah, blah, blah. Again, it could be as complicated and pedantic as you possibly want to be, but there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to even just the joints and the major places of movement in the human body that are next to the area of complaints. Shoulders very frequently bother necks. Neck problems very frequently bother shoulders. Problems in the shoulders eventually work their way down to the elbow, which can work to the wrist, which can work to the hands. Everything's very connected. I think it would be a poor chiropractor to say that everything's not connected in a way where one area of complaint can affect the areas next to it. And there's a lot of argument to be said that areas of complaint that are on the opposite side of the body can affect an area you don't even associate with it. Very commonly, one of the first things, as soon as somebody comes in with a neck problem, I always check their ankles. There is a fascial plane that goes from the neck, from atlas, which is the very tippy top bone, the one that goes right underneath the skull. It's the one vertebrae that's much more different than all the others. There is a fascial plane of movement that goes down to the ankle, where if one starts to act up, funnily enough, if you start to address the problem in the other area, it helps diminish the symptoms and the things that could be causing the other area to want to not work correctly. So whenever somebody comes in for a neck problem, I'm always like, I'm going to look at your ankle. Your ankle's probably stuck. And a lot of it has to do with people leaning, because if you have a atlas, because the skull balances on the atlas because it's this, like, it looks like a donut. It's like a big whole donut. The skull sits on top of it. If you have an ankle problem, what you could be doing is keeping your weight off of that ankle, and you'll tend to tilt because your body is like very unconsciously, not even thinking about it, is you're going to try and not put as much weight on it, so because your body's trying not to damage it further or cause you to go through like a painful episode. So you'll tend to lean. And when you lean, now that atlas has to tilt, because if you're standing, let's just say ramrod stiff, nobody really does that, but if you lean like this, trying to keep weight off the ankle, your head has to tilt in response to it because it's trying to keep your eye on the horizon. The thing that helps humans balance is we have an ability to look at something in the distance to establish where we are in space and time. Maybe not time, but in space, so that you don't fall over. It's one of the main reasons why whenever you're suffering from seasickness, they say one of the first things that you should do is look at the horizon line, because it helps you like establish where you are, and so that your body has an ability to re-establish balance. So the same goes for this. So if you're doing this tilt, your atlas is going to go out, right? At that point, when you learn that, you can tell the patient, hey, listen, you're having this neck pain, and you're also having an ankle problem, which is also causing this knee problem. Blah, blah, blah. It's all connected, and it's all very important. I don't want to downplay it at all, but I could sit here and talk about it for hours. If they come in and they say that they don't really care, which can happen, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to put my values on them, and just as much as I don't want them to put their values on me. If they come to me purely to be like, Doc, I want my neck to not hurt as much, can you adjust me 3 times or whatever, and just make it go away, I'll be like, yeah, we can definitely make it better, but there's a lot of opportunities here to improve on it and to help get rid of the actual thing that's causing that problem. And something that you'll see very commonly in, like, I don't want to say headlines, but something that I see a lot in a negative viewpoint from chiropractic is that, oh, chiropractic doesn't do anything, and if you go there, then the problem just comes back. Well, that might be poor communication on our end. There's a lot of, and you know, chiros are human. Communication's tough, and speaking in a language that a patient understands, finds value in, and also is willing to like buy into, I guess is a good way to put it. Not everybody's willing to do that, and that's fine. Whatever. Some people need multiple episodes. Some people need to, like, I guess, learn the hard way. I guess is a nice way to put it. But if somebody comes in and I tell them in no simple terms, hey, your neck hurts, or I guess we'll go with the knee example. Your knee hurts because your ankle's not moving properly and it's putting a lot of extra strain on the knee, but it's also the ankle on the opposite side because your body's trying to keep weight off of it and you're leaning more on your right knee, which is the one that hurts. And that's causing this kind of problem to manifest, and that's going to eventually work its way up to your low back, because now all of a sudden your low back has to tilt based on the way you're moving. If the person's like, yeah, that's great, Doc, I don't care, I just want you to make the pain go away, well, then there you go. You've established what it is that the patient wants, and then now you have values, and there's personal, like, patient preference. But if you don't tell them that, let's just say the chiro just assumes that the person comes in and the only thing they want is pain relief. And there are some docs that do that. Is there anything wrong with that? No, I don't think so. But I do think that there's room for growth. And I think that this opportunity to educate a patient is very important, because even if you tell them this and they decide not to listen and they want to do whatever, then when the pain comes back, they'll know, oh, it's probably because of this thing Dr. D was telling me. It's probably because of my ankle or whatever. And maybe they never come back to the office. Like, they come here this 3 times, they're like, I feel a lot better. I don't want to go back because I don't want to pay. It's too expensive. I don't find value in it or whatever. Even if you tell them, hey, your knee problem is caused by this ankle thing on the opposite side, and then they just start doing simple, like, they look up on the internet, on YouTube, oh yeah, I'm going to do ankle mobilization things or whatever, and they start to realize, oh, actually, my knee does feel a lot better because I'm doing this ankle thing, then great. I think that's a huge win, because now all of a sudden, even from like a marketing standpoint, let's put on the business hat. Let's put on Dr. D's business hat. When it comes to a marketing thing, chiros survive off of word of mouth most of the time. So if you have a chiro that you love, you should tell people. You're more willing to tell people about it if your friend's like, oh, my back hurts because I sit in an office all day or whatever. The reason chiropractors can keep their doors open is because patients like you are like, hey, you should go see my chiro because I have this similar problem, and he told me it was actually my eyeball was the problem or whatever. Which can happen if you don't have glasses. You tend to lean forward, which can put a lot of strain on the neck. Like, so there's a lot of these things are connected. But if that's how we survive, and I think that forcing our opinions, or not even our opinions, but telling people facts and then working with them whatever it is that they decide they want to do, then I think it works best for everybody. If they're educated, great. If they don't believe you or want to do anything about it, that's also great. That's fine. But that means that when I go to bed, I sleep at night. And I know that I'm not withholding information or whatever to, like, make an extra buck or whatever. When chiropractors recommend these things, the science is there for us to say, like, you should come in 4 times, like 3 times a week for 4 weeks because you're in high pain, and it's going to help this and rewrite this neural process and blah, blah, blah. Generally speaking, we are telling you to do that for a reason, because that's what the science says that works. A lot of it comes out of Canada, a lot of Canadian research about it. And even, like, when you read orthopedic-focused research papers like spine, you'll be shocked at how much of it supports chiropractic in a sense of like, oh yeah, chiropractic's cheaper than any surgery or this or that or blah blah blah. Just do a quick Google search. I'm sure it'll tell you all kinds of stuff. There's going to be people out there that don't agree with me, and that's absolutely fine. One of the beautiful things about being humans is that we can agree on things and we can disagree on things. And there's a YouTube channel I absolutely love called Vlogging Through History. He talks about a lot of historical stuff, and I'm a sucker for learning about human history and all that. And he says that it's okay to disagree as long as you're not disagreeable. And so if somebody comes in and they state an opinion I don't necessarily agree with, I might diplomatically say, well, that's not what I think. I'll be like, I think it's actually this or whatever. But I will never, unless the other person is very combative, shall we say, I'll never just say like, oh, you're wrong and you're dumb. And I think that if you could tell, and if you talk to your doctor in that way, I think there's always a way to like reach some kind of compromise. So be like, oh yeah, maybe we should try this. Maybe you should go see my friend, the orthopedic surgeon who does this thing or whatever. Communication is key, and when you go to a chiro, if they're telling you something like that, there's probably something to it. Maybe just give them, just listen to them, see what they say. If you don't agree with it, then tell them, hey, I don't necessarily agree with this. Is there some kind of like middle ground we can reach? And if they say no, well, then maybe you need a new chiro, or maybe give a shot what they want, or maybe just walk away. That's up to you. But generally speaking, that's a very long-winded answer to this. This is a really loaded question, just because there's a lot of like background. There's like a lot of there's like an emotional component to this, because a lot of people think, you know, like, because I went to chiro school. Of course I know what chiro is, but when a patient comes in, they're like, I don't really know. They might think like, oh, a chiropractor adjusts the back, or they do the racky cracky on the back. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, obviously. But if the chiro does not educate you on the potential benefits of the rest of the stuff that we do, well, then I think that's a miss on everybody, really. Again, that's my personal opinion on it. If you come to me, I'm very long-winded with my answers, as you can probably tell from these YouTube videos. Let's read some comments. Also, it should be said, if I ever read your comment, I always make sure I give it an upvote. You gotta give people their upvotes. You know, it's very earned. You want to make sure they get the recognition that's due. I don't put their names in there, though, just because I don't want anybody chasing after them after whatever, if I say a stupid thing. Comment reads, you should be actively managing the plateau. It shouldn't be the patient deciding to continue care, drop out, etc. That's too passive on the doctor's part. A plateau should be a trigger for an examination to determine if they've reached MMI. MMI is maximum medical improvement. I hate it when people put abbreviations out and don't explain what it is. If you ever are going to put an abbreviation in something you write it out the first time, and then in parentheses put whatever the abbreviation is, and then start using the abbreviation. It is maddening when I have to read something for like tax purposes or something, and they're like, oh yeah, you got to go to the PMCFFT for the city's BM6678. I don't know what any of that means. I despise it. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. So if you send me something with nothing but abbreviations, just know that I'll be sitting here shaking and rage. Anyway, they've reached MMI, and so if release transition to wellness is appropriate, or if not at MMI, and then simply more time, change in treatment, plan modalities, referral for co-management, etc. is indicated, then a decision on the way forward is made in collaboration with the patient. I think a lot of times I get accused of being maybe a little bit too passive on deciding what patients should go through. But like I was saying earlier, it should be a talk. Like, they shouldn't just bow to my iron will because I think they should come one time a week for 2 months or whatever it happens to be. I think that it should be something you talk to them about, and you reach a compromise. I'm not saying compromise, but like you work with them and be like, okay, this is what we can do with this amount of time. Make sure if you're not coming in more than once a week that you're doing these exercises that could potentially do blah, 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 blah. And that really depends on the case. It really depends on the evaluation. It really depends on the patient. It really depends on the doctor. It depends on every factor you could possibly think of. It depends on the vanilla scented candle in the waiting room. All of that plays a part in these kinds of things. So yeah, I would say if the doctor thinks that there's room for improvement. So like so I guess the main thing that he's saying is like, if you have a plateau means like you're going to get treated, but then nothing seems to really be changing between visits or over like a certain amount of time. So because a plateau is like a flat part of like I don't want to say a mountain, but like something that's high up and it has like this flat section of it. When you reach plateau, it just means that you're not noticing a lot of changes, and so, or a lot of differences. I always tell patients, tell me when that happens. Tell me when you're not like noticing huge changes, because what that means is whatever the thing that is causing your issues is either not being addressed quickly enough, or we need to switch up what we're doing for the treatment. So what it might mean is I've been stretching your quads or whatever when you come in, we adjust your back, but then it's like, yeah, it kind of comes back. Well, then maybe we need to look at some of the other muscles in the area. Maybe as we treated one thing, another muscle decided to start freaking out for whatever reason. It can happen all the time. I think it's called referral. If there's like a fancy medical term for it. I'll see if I can find it and put it up here. But the idea is that if you treat an injury, like a low back injury, what can happen is something that was previously not fully healed or rehabilitated will start to pop up again, because the nervous system's like, oh, I have an opportunity to fix this other thing, because now all of a sudden everything's moving better. And I don't have to spend as much of my time and energy, literally, on fixing the low back, because let's just say they pulled the glute muscle a long time ago and it never really fully healed, but I couldn't heal it because there was a lot of other stuff going on, because the shoulder was hurting. The brain can only fix so many things at once. And once you start to free up that bandwidth, previous injuries can start to pop out. Actually, something that also happens every once in a while is memories will start to pop out. An emotional state you were in when you originally got hurt might pop up. All of a sudden you'll be like, why am I thinking about like when my dad passed away or whatever? That can happen a lot too. The brain is weird. Memories are stored in muscles, and once you start messing with muscles, those memories can kind of pop up. It's kind of weird. The brain, obviously the human. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you like, oh yeah, I figured it out. The human body's complicated. those things happen. Just kind of keep it in mind. But I think I kind of addressed a lot of what he was saying. Yeah, MMI is important. If something's not changing, tell your doctor. Make sure you tell them. And if they're like, okay, yeah, well, let's start throwing in this like specific exercise, and we'll do this. We'll start getting the knots out of your calf or whatever it happens to be. Just like I said, it's all about communication. And you can even send it in an email. Just be like, hey doc, I've been coming. Blah, blah. Can we start doing this, or do you have any idea of any exercises that can help with whatever? Right? Just be communicative. All right, next comment. This is where your ROF, again, abbreviation, an ROF is called a report of findings. Usually done on the second visit, or maybe at the very end of the first one. It kind of depicts some personal philosophies on that one. Usually we do it on the second visit here in this office. What is an ROF? It's literally you sit down with them, you talk about all the things that you found in the previous visit, you kind of lay out a plan, and then that is where you're like, okay, hey, by the way, we found this problem with your knee. It might be because of your ankle. The report of findings is just all the things that we found in the exam, and a time to answer any questions or concerns that the patient might have about whatever. Usually here we're also talk about like the treatment plan. We're like, hey, you should probably come in 12 times. Let's do 3 times a week for 4 weeks, whatever. Usually I'll also try to address costs. There's always usually a lot of concerns about costs. One of the benefits of having a practice that doesn't do insurance is that we can do discounts. Again, that's kind of just like a non-patient. That's like a per area thing. And the insurance game is complicated and it would take a very long-winded explanation to explain why insurance is the way it is. I'm not going to talk about it, but it's not fun. But yeah, that's one of the advantages of ROFs is that you just have time to like sit down and kind of hash a lot of that stuff out. Anyway, this is where your ROF and your table talk comes into play. Is your office more pain-focused or wellness-focused? There's that philosophy thing. Pain is a great motivator, but what happens once their pain is gone? Then you have to talk about maintaining so that it doesn't return. You lay that foundation on day 2 or whenever you do a report. It also happens with you saying, see you next week or 2 weeks, or your staff asking, what day do you want to come back? When do you want to schedule next? Not do you want to schedule. You and your staff have to guide them through the journey. We have patients this year that will be hitting 300, 400, 500 visits, and one that will be hitting 800, and we started in 2015. Obviously, 800 visits is quite a bit. That is probably over the course of like a couple years. Or probably not even a couple. It's probably like a lot of years. We have patients in our business that have been coming here for like 20 years, right? And if I were to look up their numbers, it probably would be something fairly similar, because people find value in it, and that value has been explained to them, and they say, yeah, if I come once a week, I get adjusted. It means that I just feel better, and I can go on walks and play sports and do whatever I want. I want to play with my grandkids and sit in my comfy chair and read a newspaper, and I just feel way better. Great, that's awesome. And getting adjusted 100% is preventative for hurting yourself, just doing the most mundane of things. Because all of a sudden now, if your ankle is moving the way it should be, you don't have to worry about your knee or your low back hurting as much because you're not moving properly. And what this person, again, I would assume that this is also a chiropractor just based on the way that they're wording it. Yeah, when somebody's leaving, there's a couple different responses that you'll notice, that I at least notice patients that come here. They'll say, oh yeah, I'll call you when I need it. Oh, let me just check my schedule and I'll get in touch. Oh, I'll just leave and I'll make an appointment later today when I'm not doing whatever. There are a lot of people that will call. I don't want to call anybody out and say like, oh yeah, all these people are bad. A lot of these people do just have really busy schedules and they don't have their calendar in front of them. Blah blah blah. But one thing that you'll notice is that the people who don't make appointments when they leave will forget. And when that happens, if we don't reach out to them, which a lot of times we do, we're like, oh yeah, you left a couple weeks ago, you made an appointment. Blah, blah. What'll happen is that it's usually, I've noticed, about 2 years. 2 years is kind of roughly the amount of time. People will disappear for 2 years, and then they'll call and say like, oh yeah, I just was like skipped my mind and I forgot to come in for 2 weeks, and now, or for 2 years. Now all of a sudden that pain that I had when I first came in started rearing its ugly head again, and I can't sit and read the newspaper in my favorite comfy chair or whatever. I've noticed that it tends to, 2 years I notice tends to be kind of like that weird melting, or that like threshold point, which is a lot of time, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of differences that will happen physiologically and anatomically between those 2 points, where they'll probably start noticing like, oh yeah, I'm a lot more achy than I used to, and again, my sleep isn't quite as good, or blah blah blah. It's a good idea to tell people, hey, tell them it's not a matter of if you should come back, it's a matter of when you should come back, and we should do everything we can to reduce the friction for that. That's how you get good wellness adherence. We're doing, and again, we don't do it for like particularly like greedy reasons per se. I like to do it just because I would forget. I forget appointments if I don't put it in my calendar all the time. Is that just me? I doubt it. But if you know that you come in every Thursday at 2 o'clock or whatever, it's a lot easier to be like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to miss this appointment because I go every Thursday at 2 o'clock or whatever. And again, that's a personal preference thing on how often people want to come back. I always say, once you've reached the maintenance/wellness point in care, 1 week to a month. Generally speaking, if somebody doesn't come in after about a month, they start to regress to what they were doing before, and then they might have to do this thing where they come in for like another big episode of care, where they have to come in for like 3 times a week for 4 months because they hurt themselves, doing whatever. Everybody's a little bit different. Obviously, people who are more active and take care of themselves may not have to come in quite as much. But again, that's a per person, per case base. And again, pain is a great, and I think I was talking about that at the very beginning of this. Pain is a great motivator. Pain goes away. If you get adjusted, pain will definitely go away. When people come in, even at the report, and she, kind of touching on it, saying that, oh yeah, the table talk, where usually when people come in, we're like, oh yeah, the weather, can you believe it, the Bruins, right? It's crazy. If every once in a while you decide to tell a patient about like some research that I read or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, do you know that if you get your sinuses adjusted, it helps with congestion or whatever tiny thing? People are like, yeah, I never thought of it like that. I don't know why that accent comes. That's what all my patients sound like. They have like that weird Boston accent. Yeah, I never thought of it like that. After you say that, doctor, I never thought of it like that. That will happen. And again, it's all about education, because people think of chiros as just like spine doctors. I get asked all the time about shoulders. I have treated so many shoulders over the years. And people will say, yeah, I know you're not a shoulder doctor or whatever, but I need you to fix my shoulder, please. Can you do anything about that, doc? You ever seen a shoulder before? And I'm like, yeah, I've treated a lot of shoulders. Just laying there, do this. And the shoulder is obviously very close to the neck and the back. They're very attached, actually. I find most shoulder problems will cause a problem in the mid-back. Again, that's a discussion point for another time. Yeah, it's a good idea for chiros to kind of keep people up to date and remind them, like, this is why you come in here. When you get stuffy in your nose or whatever, it might be because of allergies, and getting adjusted tends to help with allergies, or we have things here that might help you breathe, like we could use like essential oils or whatever tiny thing. We'll adjust sinuses and all that a lot with cranial adjustments, at least here. And not every chiro does those things, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe ask them. Maybe they can learn how to do it. Maybe you could go to a doc to do a specific thing or whatever. Just kind of depends on your situation. Yeah, there you go. So if I had to name this episode, it would be called Personal Preferences and what we should do about them. Yeah, obviously, chiropractic is a magical thing. I think it will change your world from, even if it's just one adjustment, all the way to your 800th one in this case. Yeah, I think it's a great idea to think about the mindfulness. Yeah, the mindfulness is kind of the key here. Think about what you like in your life. Get rid of the stuff you don't like. Keep the stuff you do like. Get more of the stuff you like. Get rid of the stuff you don't like. And sometimes you have to exit your comfort zone to find the things that you really do like. Like dancing is one for me, right? We mentioned the Zumba. Yeah, I if you had asked me to do it like before I'd done it, I'd be like, there's no way I'm dancing in a room full of women who are gonna make fun of me because I don't know, because I got like 3 left feet. They don't care. They love that anybody's going there to try. Zumba's great. I'm sure some people will get aggravated that you're stumbling around like a drunk peacock, but whatever, it's fine. Sometimes you got to go out and do things for fun, and you got to not worry about what other people are thinking. But anyway, yeah, so that'll sum up this episode. Thank you very much for listening to this. I love you guys. The feedback for the episodes has been pretty good. The people that watch it tend to really enjoy it. I think the numbers are going to go up. Don't forget to share it with your friends and all that. We should. I finally got an intro and an outro made just because I love doing this so much. But I love you guys. Make sure you have an absolutely wonderful day and keep it popping. Bye!